everyone. I'm going to be reading your homework. You can access the book on your Google Classroom under classwork and right here, Castle Diary book. That will open up to the PDF. You can also, at the bottom of your screen, you can zoom in to make it bigger. So that's what I'm going to do as we begin. February 5th, Monday. Chaplain sickened this forenoon and took to his bed, so we were free to do as we pleased. To help me forget my misery over the hunt, and because he was sick of hearing me tell of it, Mark offered to teach me Longshanks, this being his name for stilts. He led me to the old sally port in the west wall. This small door was once a back way out of the castle, but is scarce used today. We went to the little wood that grows beyond the wall, and there Mark showed me how to cut a forked chestnut branch with one side long to hold on to and the other short to stand on. I soon discovered that my stilts were far more easily made than used, though, and have bruises aplenty to show for it. February 6th, Tuesday. Back to schooling this day. Sitting in the cold, keep air freeze me to the bone, so when lessons were ended, I slipped into the kitchen. While thawing in its warmth, I watched a kitchen lad making pie shells, which he did call coffins. Not many minutes had passed before the cook espied me heating myself by the bread oven. He asked my business there, and when he learned that I had no task, said, "There is no room in my kitchen for useless bodies," and set me to copying from a pile of recipes that he had. They were much splattered, and few even smelled of the dishes they described. Some were most strange, especially a salad made with cock's combs and hen's feet. For writing on, cook gave me some old scraps of parchment. Many had to be scraped clean before I could use them again. February 13th, Tuesday. Before lessons, I went again to warm myself in the kitchen and watched while cook made bread. He and his helpers start work before dawn, and the kitchen was a busy, bustling place. Cook mixes water and flour with barm. This last stuff he gets from the breweries in the village, who calls it yeast. Her work is to make ale for the castle, and as it brews, she scoops off the barm that floats on the top as foam. This barm forms bubbles that swell the dough, making the bread light. Cook kneads the dough in a trough made of the hollowed-out half of a tree trunk, then shapes it into loaves and leaves it to rise. February 14th, Wednesday. Cook showed me today how they bake bread. A kitchen lad lights the oven early on baking days so that it is hot when the loaves are ready for baking. He begins by burning bundles of sticks and then throws in a log or two. As soon as the oven glows overall, he scoops out the embers, brushes out most of the gray ash, then wipes the oven floor with a wet mop. The oven hisses mightily, and steam issues from its mouth like the breath of a dragon. Cook then sets the loaves into the hot oven with a wooden shovel he calls a peel. They bake here 3 kinds of bread. Cook made me miniature loaves of each sort, and all the kitchen staff rested at their work to watch me taste them. The best, called manchet, is made from sifted wheaten flour and is the white bread we eat in Hall. The second, brown sheep bread, I knew also, for I have seen some of the servants eat it. The last, which I had not known, they called brawn bread. It was horrible, and I spat it out, which caused great mirth among those who watched. I learned later that only dogs and horses eat such bread. It is baked to use up the bran the miller sieves out from the wheat when he makes white flour. At such ill use, I ran out of the kitchen and vowed not to go back there, even if the ice freezes off all my fingers. February 21st, Wednesday. Tomorrow I am to spend the day at the butts, which is what they call the archery targets here, and must do so in the company of the constable. Part of his work as warden of the castle is to train the castle guards and ensure that they are constantly ready to ward off an attack. To this end, he and his men practice their fighting skills as often as the weather and their other duties will allow. To him also is given the task of instructing us pages in the basic points of archery, though clearly he does not relish such a chore, for when my uncle asked him to watch over me at the butts, he protested loudly. He said that I was old enough to look after myself, which is true, but my uncle silenced him, saying, "Hush, man, 'tis just for one day. Once he has the hang of it, he can practice without your help. But this is my brother's only son. What say if the lad be spiked with an arrow on his first day at yonder butts? February 22nd, Thursday. This morn the constable and I ventured out together to the butts beyond the north wall, each of us pretending that we were alone. At home I have a bow which father fashioned for me, but when I saw what they call here a boy's bow, I knew mine was but a toy. My new bow is made of yew wood, and is as tall as me, straight as an iron rod. It is almost as stiff. To bend it and fit the string takes all my strength. My arrows are the perfect twins of those the castle guards use, but done in miniature. They have real goose-feather flights, which are supposed to make them fly straight at the target. Oftener, though, my arrows fly elsewhere when I let go the bowstring. I had thought that my practice with arrows in the orchard at home last summer might be some help to me in this new endeavor, but I am by far the poorest archer in the castle. March 3rd, Saturday. Have been neglectful of my journey of late, for studies and other tasks fill the daylight hours when it is light enough to write. I made this entry in school while I did pretend to be studying my numbers. At the butts yesterday, one of the archers showed me why his kind are so feared by our king's foes. With bow in hand, he stood before a tree with a trunk thicker than my chest. He pulled back the bowstring until the veins stood out upon his face, and when he loosed the arrow, its head passed clean through the tree trunk and pierced the other side. Seeing this, the other archers jeered that he was showing off, and 4 more of them repeated his trick. But then, when he let fly 13 arrows in a minute, none took up his challenge to better him. March 9th, Friday. Practiced archery again today. This time I was much better and pulled the string right back. But when the constable saw this, he gave me a bigger bow. So once again I am the castle dizzard at the butts. Of 12 arrows I shot with my new bow, only 4 hit target, while 7 fell on grass. 1 killed a sparrow in flight. Those watching cried, "Hell!" and clapped, so I bowed low to them and said not that 'twas but a fluke. March 11th, the Lord's Day. With much ceremony, a special dish was placed before me at dinner today. Baked on a skewer was the bird that I had shot. Cook, whose jest this was, called it sparrow al arrow, and though there was scarce a mouthful of meat on the bird, it tasted well. March 12th, Monday. This morn I overheard my uncle say he was to visit the castle armory to see about some small changes to his helm. He wishes it to weigh less heavy on his head, yet better protect him at the jousts. Of this tournament I knew nothing, and I begged his leave to accompany him. In my excitement I quite forgot myself and began to say, "Uncle, tell me more about—" for I desired most keenly to learn of these jousts. But then I remembered my manners, and blushing, began anew. "My lord, if it pleases you, pray tell me more about the tournament." This made him laugh, and he spoke freely about it, saying that the jousts are to be held as usual on St. George's feast day, so I must wait 6 weeks. Within the armory they make and mend all manner of weapons as well as armor, but the noise of hammering and the heat from the furnace in which they soften the metal were so great that they made my head whirl. 'Tis certain the sound has made the armorer and the smith and their apprentices as deaf as beetles, for to make himself heard my uncle had to bellow like a braying ass. March 16th, Friday. My cousin Beth hath sewed me a shirt of Egyptical cotton. I have never before had such a dainty garb. I hastened to put it on, but because it is new, the seams and stitches rub my skin sore. Humphrey and Oliver both laughed at this and called me Chrismer and Nigget and Moonling. They are accustomed to new clothes and will suffer them until washing softens the folds. But I would rather wear my old linen shirt, for though it is more common, 'tis also more comfortable. March 19th, Monday. Played at knights with Mark, Oliver, and Humphrey today. As Mark is bigger than me, he was the horse, and I rode his back. We won. Oliver toppled from his horse and got a bloody nose. Serves him right, for he did twist my ears most painfully and call me the worst names when first I wore my new shirt. March 20th, Tuesday. Wrote yesternight by candle's flicker and fell asleep with quill in hand. When I awoke, the candle had set the pages alight and would have burned my straw mattress, or worse, if Humphrey had not smelled smoke and beat out the flames. This morning Chaplain likewise beat my backside to teach me care with candles, he said. Ate saltfish again today. Disgusting. Here they are more careful to follow the church's rules than at home. So besides every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday being fish days, they also eat fish on each church festival. This means we eat vile fish more often than flesh or fowl.